Hello, my name is Sherri Hayes, and today I'm going to be talking about the inspiration for my Finding Anna series. For those of you who are not familiar with my Finding Anna series, it is a 4-book BDSM romance. The first book in the series is Slave. The second book, Need. Truth is number 3. And then the final book in the series is Trust. The premise for this series of books, came about from 2 different sources. The first one was BDSM stories. I had been reading some stories online that had BDSM content, and I was surprised, first of all, to find out that I enjoyed them. But also, what intrigued me wasn't the kinky sex that was involved in the story. It was actually the level of trust and communication between the 2 people. Around the same time, I was watching some news stories about a young woman named JC Dugard. For those of you who aren't familiar with her story, she was kidnapped as a little girl by a man and held captive as his slave in his home here in the United States for many years. She ended up having 2 children by him before she was rescued. And as I watched her story unfold on these news programs, one of the things that came to mind was that when she was ready to move into a relationship, especially a romantic relationship, there would need to be a huge level of trust and communication between her and her partner because of all of the things that she had went through and experienced when she was held captive. And the wheels started turning in my brain, as they often do with writers. And I thought, what if I combined the two? What if I combined BDSM and the psychological aspects of that, the heightened level of trust and communication that's needed, and paired it with a young woman who had been traumatized by being held captive, like JC Dugard had. So that was kind of how it came about. I melded the two and just threw a young dominant into the mix and a young girl who had been held captive as a sex slave, and made it so he would rescue her from that situation, and then kind of took that as a jumping off point. What happens next? A lot of stories that deal with sex slaves in the BDSM genre, they end once the girl is rescued. And this series actually picks up where they leave off. It starts off with her being rescued, and it follows the story of Stefan and Brianna and their relationship, and her finding herself again after all this stuff has happened to her, and how it affects her decision-making processes, how it affects her level of trust with both herself and with other people. It's a psychological exploration of BDSM in a lot of respects, although, and it's definitely not a traditional romance by any means. So I hope this answers your question as to my inspiration for this series. And if you haven't checked out the series and are interested, I will leave the link below to my website, which has information regarding all of my books. Also, if you have a question for me that you would like to see me answer about my books or my writing in a future video, leave the question below in the comments, and who knows, you may get an answer to your question. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great day.